October 24, 1980. London's Hammersmith Odeon stood like a cathedral of rock and roll on Queen Caroline Street, its Art Deco facade glowing against the autumn evening sky. Inside, 500 people were settling into their seats, the air electric with anticipation. Outside, in the shadow of those towering walls, a different kind of music was happening. Nobody paid much attention to street musicians in those days. They were part of the urban furniture, like lampposts or newspaper stands. But if you'd walked past the Odeon's main entrance at exactly 5:47 p.m. that evening, you would have heard something that made you stop. His name was Marcus Webb, 23 years old, thin as a rail, wearing a jacket that had seen better winters and boots held together more by hope than leather. His guitar case lay open at his feet, collecting the occasional coin from passers-by who were too focused on getting inside to really listen. But Marcus was singing like his life depended on it, because it did. 6 months earlier, Marcus had been a music student at the Royal Academy. Scholarship kid from Liverpool, first in his family to go to university. Voice that his professors said could move mountains if he'd only learn to harness it. Then his mother got sick. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The medical bills weren't covered by the NHS. Not the experimental treatments she needed. Not the ones that might give her more than the 6 weeks her doctors predicted. Marcus dropped out 3 months before graduation. Moved back home. Worked 2 jobs during the day. Sang on street corners at night. Every pound, every pence, went into an envelope marked Mum's Treatment. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. But he kept singing because that's what she'd taught him to do when the world felt too heavy. Tonight, he'd chosen this particular street corner for a reason. Queen was performing, and Queen meant Freddie Mercury. And Freddie Mercury meant Somebody to Love, the song Marcus's mother used to sing to him when he was small, when his father had left and money was tight, and the Liverpool rain felt like it would never stop. She'd sing it in their tiny kitchen, stirring soup on a hot plate, and for those 3 minutes and 40 seconds, everything felt possible again. So Marcus stood outside Hammersmith Odeon and sang Somebody to Love to the indifferent crowds rushing past, his voice rising above the traffic and the October wind. He sang it the way his mother had taught him, with everything he had, like it was a prayer. Can anybody find me somebody to love? His voice cracked on that last word, not from technical failure but from the weight of meaning it carried. Inside that envelope in his jacket pocket was 347 others. His mother needed $2,000 for the next treatment. The appointment was in 6 days. Marcus closed his eyes and kept singing. What he didn't know was that someone had stopped walking. Freddie Mercury stood 15 feet away, wearing sunglasses despite the fading light, a black coat wrapped around his shoulders. He'd arrived early, as he always did before shows, to feel the energy of the street, to remember what it was like before the stadiums and the lights. His bandmates were already inside, doing sound checks. Freddie had wanted a moment alone, and then he'd heard that voice. Not just any voice. A voice that understood what it meant to need somebody. A voice that carried the kind of desperation you can't fake, can't manufacture in a recording studio. The kind of raw, honest sound that had drawn Freddie to music in the first place, back when he was Farrokh Bulsara singing in school talent shows, when he was still figuring out who he could become. Freddie moved closer. Marcus's eyes were still closed, lost in the song, in the memory of his mother's kitchen. He didn't see the small crowd beginning to gather, didn't notice that people had stopped rushing past. He certainly didn't see Freddie Mercury removing his sunglasses, studying him with that intense gaze that could strip away pretense and see straight into a person's soul. Marcus hit the final note, held it longer than he should have been able to, poured everything into it. When he opened his eyes, ready to face another indifferent crowd, he found instead a circle of people staring at him, and in front of them all, impossibly, stood Freddie Mercury. For 3 full seconds, Marcus forgot how to breathe, How long have you been singing like that? Freddie's voice was quieter than Marcus expected, more intimate, like they were the only two people on that street corner. Marcus's mouth opened. No sound came out. He tried again. All my life, sir. Don't call me sir. Freddie stepped closer, peering into the guitar case with its pathetic collection of coins. Call me Freddie, and tell me why someone with a voice like yours is singing on a street corner instead of inside that building. The crowd was growing larger. Someone had recognized Freddie. Whispers rippled through the gathering circle. Marcus felt the heat rising in his face, the familiar shame of his circumstances mixing with something else. Anger. Not at Freddie, but at everything. At the unfairness of it all. At cancer and poverty and the way the world kept taking and taking from people who had so little to give. Because life doesn't care about talent, Marcus heard himself say. It only cares about money. Freddie went very still. Something flickered across his face, recognition of a pain he understood too well. He'd spent years being told he couldn't succeed, that his teeth were wrong, his background was wrong, his everything was wrong. He knew what it was like to hear no in every accent, every language. "Show me your hands," Freddie said suddenly. Marcus held them out, confused. They were rough, calloused from the construction job he worked during the day, fingertips raw from playing cheap guitar strings night after night. Freddie took one of Marcus's hands in both of his own, turning it over gently. "These are working hands. Honest hands." He looked up, and Marcus saw something in those dark eyes that looked like grief, like fury, like recognition. "Why are you really out here?" Not the philosophical answer, the real one. And maybe it was the way Freddie asked, or maybe it was because Marcus was so tired of carrying it alone, but the words came tumbling out. His mother, the cancer, the dropped scholarship, the 347 in his pocket against the 2 he needed by Wednesday. All of it spilled onto that street corner while 3,500 people waited inside for a show, and Freddie Mercury held the hand of a stranger. When Marcus finished, his voice was shaking. "I'm sorry. You didn't ask for my life story. You have a show to do." Freddie was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something Marcus would never forget. "The show can wait. This can't." He turned to the crowd that had gathered, now maybe 50 people deep. "How many of you are here to see Queen tonight?" Hands went up, nearly everyone. "Good." Freddie's voice shifted, became commanding in a way that made people lean in. "I need you to listen to something. Really listen. This young man is going to sing again, and you're going to hear what real music sounds like. Not production, not studio magic. Just pure, honest, desperate hope. And then, if you're moved, if you feel anything at all, you're going to help him." He turned back to Marcus. "Sing Somebody to Love again. But this time, sing it for her. Sing it like she can hear you." Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the guitar. The crowd had swelled to over 100 now, word spreading through the queue that something was happening outside. Someone had run to get the rest of Queen. Brian May appeared at the door. Then Roger Taylor. Then John Deacon, all three staring at the scene unfolding on their doorstep. Marcus strummed the opening chords. His voice cracked on the first word. He stopped, swallowed hard, felt tears burning behind his eyes. "From the beginning," Freddie said gently. "And don't apologize for the tears. Never apologize for the tears." Marcus started again. This time, his voice held. This time, he wasn't singing for the coins in his guitar case or the indifferent crowds. He was singing for his mother, for every morning she'd woken up to make him breakfast before school, for every sacrifice she'd made so he could chase a dream that had slipped through his fingers. He sang like it was the last song he'd ever sing. And Freddie Mercury, arguably the greatest frontman rock and roll had ever seen, stood beside him and sang harmony. The crowd went absolutely silent. You could hear the traffic from 3 streets away. You could hear the wind moving through the autumn leaves. And cutting through it all, two voices. Marcus's raw, desperate hope, and Freddie's soaring, perfect support, lifting the younger man's voice higher and higher until it seemed impossible that such sound could come from two human throats. When they finished, nobody moved. The silence stretched out for 5 full seconds. Then Freddie turned to the crowd. "That voice you just heard, that talent, is dying on a street corner because we live in a world that values money over miracles. This young man's mother has 6 days to live unless she can get treatment. He needs $2,000. I'm going to give him half. The rest comes from you." He pulled out his wallet, extracted a thick fold of bills, pressed them into Marcus's trembling hands. "That's $1,000. Now let's see if humanity still exists in this city." What happened next became legendary in Queen's history, though it was never officially documented. The crowd surged forward, not to get closer to Freddie, but to reach Marcus. People pulled out wallets, emptied pockets, yanked off jewelry. A woman took off her pearl necklace and placed it in the guitar case, tears streaming down her face. A businessman in an expensive suit emptied his entire wallet, must have been $200 at least. Teenagers pooled their concert money. An elderly man, clearly a veteran based on his jacket, shuffled forward and placed a single $5 note with such reverence it felt like a benediction. Brian May added $200. Roger Taylor matched it. John Deacon, the quiet one, silently contributed $300. In 15 minutes, the guitar case overflowed. Bills spilled onto the sidewalk. Someone had to fetch a bag from the venue to hold it all. The crowd kept coming, kept giving, until Marcus was sitting on the cold pavement, sobbing openly, unable to process what was happening. Freddie knelt beside him. "Count it." Marcus's hands shook too badly. Freddie helped him, sorting bills while the crowd watched in reverent silence. When they finished, Freddie looked up with something like awe in his eyes. "$4,847, he announced. "More than double what you needed." Marcus made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. I can't." "Yes, you can." Freddie gripped his shoulders. "You call your mother's doctor tomorrow, first thing. You get her that treatment. And then, when she's better, because she will get better, you come find me. Queen Records, London? You ask for Freddie Mercury and you sing for me again. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak. "Say it. I'll come find you. Promise me." "I promise." Freddie pulled him into a hug, this stranger, this street musician, and held him while he fell apart. The crowd began to applaud, softly at first, then building until it echoed off the walls of Hammersmith Odeon. Inside, 500 people were still waiting for a show. Outside, 200 people had just witnessed something far more powerful than any concert could ever be. Freddie finally pulled back, stood up, helped Marcus to his feet. "The show must go on," he said, but there was something different in his voice now, something raw. "But first, I need you to do something for me. Anything. I want you inside, front row. You're going to watch this concert, and every time I sing Somebody to Love, I'm singing it with you. For your mother. For everyone out here who believed enough to give. For the miracle that just happened on this street corner." He turned to his bandmates. "Make room, front row. Our friend here has a show to watch." Marcus was ushered inside, still clutching his guitar, the bag of money, unable to fully process what had just happened. The crowd followed, energized in a way that went beyond typical concert excitement. They'd been part of something. They'd witnessed transformation, had been transformed themselves. The concert that night was different. Everyone who was there says so. Freddie sang with a kind of emotional rawness he usually kept buried under showmanship and performance. When they played Somebody to Love, he stopped mid-song, pointed to Marcus in the front row, and the entire venue held their breath as the street musician stood up and sang the verse he'd been singing on that corner. His voice carried through the Odeon, no microphone needed, pure and powerful, and full of hope. When he finished, Freddie embraced him again, this time in front of thousands, and the ovation that followed lasted 6 full minutes. But here's the part that nobody expected. Marcus's mother received her treatment. The experimental therapy, combined with the traditional course her doctors had abandoned as too expensive, produced results they'd never seen. 6 weeks became 6 months. 6 months became a year. 3 years later, she walked Marcus down the aisle at his wedding. 5 years later, she held her first grandchild. She lived for 18 more years. But the story doesn't end there. Marcus kept his promise. 6 months after that night, he showed up at Queen Records with his guitar and asked for Freddie Mercury. Security was about to turn him away when Freddie himself appeared in the lobby, recognized him instantly, and invited him up. Marcus didn't get a recording contract that day. What he got was something more valuable: mentorship. Freddie introduced him to voice coaches, to producers, to people who could help him finish his education. He became a regular at Freddie's legendary parties, not as decoration but as talent, as friend. When Marcus finally released his first album in 1985, Freddie sang backup on 3 tracks. The album went gold. More importantly, Marcus used the profits to establish something he called the Somebody to Love Foundation. The foundation's mission was simple: identify struggling artists, particularly those who'd been forced to choose between their dreams and family obligations, and give them the financial support to pursue both. Medical bills, tuition, living expenses, whatever it took. In its first 10 years, the foundation helped 127 artists continue their education or care for sick family members. By 2020, that number had grown to over 3,000. Marcus spoke at Freddie's tribute concert in 1992, held at Wembley Stadium for 72,000 people. He told the story of that October night outside Hammersmith Odeon. He told it with tears streaming down his face, his mother sitting in the VIP section, alive against all odds. He told it because it mattered, because it was true, because Freddie had believed that talent and compassion were worth more than money, and then had put that belief into action. Freddie Mercury saw me when I was invisible, Marcus told that massive crowd. He heard me when everyone else walked past. And he didn't just help me. He taught me that our gifts are worthless if we don't use them to lift others up. That night, outside the Odeon, he could have walked past. He had a show to do, thousands of people waiting. But he stopped. He listened. He stayed. Marcus paused, overcome. When he continued, his voice was barely above a whisper, but the stadium was so quiet you could hear every word. He saved my mother's life. He saved mine. And then he challenged me to pay it forward, to make sure that what happened to me could happen to others. So every artist we help through the foundation, every young person who gets to keep their dreams alive while caring for someone they love, that's Freddie. That's his legacy. Not just the music, though, God, the music. But this. The way he saw people. Really saw them. The way he believed we could be better than we are. The foundation still operates today. They've expanded beyond musicians to include all artists, painters, writers, dancers, actors, anyone with talent and desperation in equal measure. On their application, there's a question at the very end. When did someone help you when you needed it most? Every recipient has to answer it. And every recipient, upon being accepted, is asked to commit to one thing. When they make it, when they're successful, they'll stop on a street corner somewhere and really listen to the person singing there. They'll see them. They'll help them if they can. Because that's what Freddie did. The entrance to the Foundation's London headquarters features a brass plaque with an inscription. It's a quote from Marcus, from an interview he gave 20 years after that October night. Freddie Mercury taught me that we're only as good as what we do with our gifts. And the greatest gift we can give is to see someone else when the whole world is walking past. Below that, in smaller letters, October 24th, 1980. Hammersmith Odeon, where everything changed. Every year on that date, the Foundation hosts a free concert outside the Odeon, which is now called the Eventim Apollo. Street musicians perform. Established artists show up unannounced and sing alongside them. All donations go to the Foundation. And at exactly 5:47 p.m., the same time Marcus was singing all those years ago, everyone stops and sings Somebody to Love together. Thousands of voices, rising into the London sky, singing for everyone who needs somebody. Singing for every person who ever stood on a corner with a dream and empty pockets. Singing for Freddie, who stopped walking when everyone else rushed past. Marcus Webb is 70 years old now. His mother passed peacefully in 1998, surrounded by family, having lived long enough to see her son become everything she'd dreamed for him. He still plays music, though he's transitioned mostly to teaching and running the Foundation. His voice has the weathered quality that comes with age, but it still carries that desperate, honest quality that made Freddie Mercury stop walking 45 years ago. In his office, Marcus keeps two things on his desk. The first is a photo from that night. Freddie with his arm around Marcus's shoulders, both of them laughing, the bag of money at their feet, the crowd visible behind them. The photo was taken by a fan, sent to Marcus years later. He's never determined who took it, but he's grateful they did. The second is his mother's pearl necklace, the one she wore the night she met Freddie at Marcus's wedding. Freddie had recognized her immediately, had spent 20 minutes talking with her about her son, about music, about the way life surprises us with miracles when we're brave enough to keep singing. "Your son has your voice," Freddie had told her, "but more importantly, he has your heart." She'd cried then, happy tears, alive tears, 18 more years of tears and laughter and grandchildren and Sunday dinners and everything that makes a life worth living. 18 years she wasn't supposed to have. All because a street musician sang on a corner. All because Freddie Mercury stopped walking. All because, for one perfect moment on an October evening in London, humanity remembered what it was supposed to be. People seeing people, hearing them, helping them, lifting them up. The world tells us we're supposed to walk past. To rush to our appointments, our concerts, our carefully scheduled lives. It tells us that other people's struggles are not our responsibility. That we've got our own problems. That we can't save everyone. Freddie Mercury proved that wrong. He proved that sometimes the most extraordinary thing we can do is stop. Listen. See the person everyone else is walking past. And then, this is the important part, do something about it. Not think about it, not feel bad about it, not wish someone else would handle it. Actually do something. That night outside Hammersmith Odeon, 200 people learned that lesson. They gave money they probably needed for other things. They gave jewelry with sentimental value. They gave time when they'd paid good money to be inside watching a show. They gave because Freddie showed them it was possible, because Marcus's voice demanded to be heard. Because for one miraculous moment, a street corner in London became the most important stage in the world. And the ripple effects of that moment are still spreading. Every artist the Foundation helps is a ripple. Every street corner concert on October 24th is a ripple. Every person who decides to stop walking, to really listen, to see someone else's humanity, that's a ripple too. Freddie Mercury's legacy isn't just the music, though the music will last forever. It's not just the performances, though they redefined what live performance could be. His legacy is this: the proof that one person, choosing compassion over convenience, can change the trajectory of a life, and that life can change another, and another, and another, until the act of stopping, of listening, of helping, becomes the melody we all know by heart. Marcus Webb still sings Somebody to Love at every Foundation event. His voice isn't what it was at 23, but it carries something more valuable now. Proof that somebody did find him somebody to love. Proof that prayers, when sung with enough desperation and hope, can be answered. Proof that the world is full of people waiting to be seen, and full of people capable of seeing them, if only we'd stop walking long enough to look. In the end, that's what Freddie gave us that night. Not just money for a treatment, not just a moment of fame, not even just a saved life. Though he gave all of those things, he gave us a blueprint for how to be human, how to use whatever gifts we have, whatever platform, whatever moment we're given, to lift someone else up. Every time someone stops to listen to a street musician now, really listen, there's a piece of Freddie in that moment. Every time someone helps a stranger, sees them as fully human and worthy of dignity, there's a piece of that October night in London. Somebody found Marcus somebody to love, and in doing so, taught all of us how to love somebody too. If this incredible story of Freddie Mercury's compassion and the transformative power of simply stopping to see someone moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the importance of pausing in our busy lives to recognize others' humanity. Have you ever had a moment where a stranger's kindness completely changed your perspective? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the heart behind music's greatest legends.